They applied this principle when they built the Albacore, which tested the shape. Although Albacore had conventional diesel engines, a marriage was performed. Her shape and the power of Nautilus.
After 78 years of deadly silence, a flicker of light revealed a long-buried secret in the North Pacific. For decades, the USS Albacore was a ghost, a giant killer that vanished at the peak of its power, leaving behind only rough coordinates and 85 missing men. Now, an advanced underwater drone slips into crushing darkness.
A World War II submarine that was lost in 1944.
13 on your side's Liliana Murillo was there for today's service.
Where no human could survive, and the ocean finally responds. What did the drone find, and why does the wreck look wrong? Cutting through the dark waters of the Tsugaru Strait, the drone did what had never been done before. It touched the steel body of a legend. The first images did more than confirm the submarine's location. They showed a ship strangely well preserved, marked by details no one expected. Experts were left silent. This was not just old metal on the seafloor. It was the return of the most successful hunter ever to move beneath the waves, and the footage rising from the deep is finally revealing how the Albacore met its end. But to understand its final moments, we first need to journey back to where it all began. The genesis of a predator, the rise of the Gato-class giant killer. The story of the USS Albacore SS-218 does not begin in the cold, hostile waters near Japan. It begins thousands of miles away, in the heat, noise and steel of Groton, Connecticut. On April the 21st, 1941, inside the Electric Boat Company shipyard, her keel was laid as the world stood on the edge of war. America had not yet entered the conflict, but everyone knew the calm would not last. The Albacore was a Gato-class submarine, the cutting-edge weapon of its time. Built to roam the vast Pacific, she could stay hidden for weeks and strike deep inside enemy waters. At over 311 feet long and weighing more than 1,500 tons, she was massive. Inside, diesel engines, electric motors and torpedoes filled every inch, with just enough space for the crew to live, work and fight in near darkness. From the moment she slid into the water on February 17, 1942, the Albacore carried more than steel. She carried America's resolve after Pearl Harbor. Quiet, precise and deadly, she was built to hunt the Imperial Japanese Navy. Commissioned on June 1st, her pace never slowed. Across 11 war patrols, she earned 9 battle stars and 4 Presidential Unit citations, carving a record few submarines could match. Each mission pushed her crew deeper into danger, sharpening her reputation as the Pacific's silent predator. The nickname Giant Killer was not earned by chance. Unlike many submarines that focused on merchant ships and supply lines, the Albacore hunted warships. She went after armored targets, destroyers, cruisers, and carriers protected by escorts and air patrols. This was the hardest kind of fight beneath the sea. By the end of her service, 6 of her confirmed sinkings were enemy combatant ships. That achievement placed her among the most lethal submarines of the entire war. Measured by warship tonnage alone, the Albacore holds a grim distinction. No other US submarine in the Second World War sank more enemy warship tonnage than she did. Behind those victories was a formidable machine. The Albacore stretched over 300 feet in length, with a wide beam that housed engines, torpedoes, batteries, and living quarters packed tightly together. On the surface, she could move at over 20 knots. Beneath the waves, she slipped silently at nearly 9 knots, diving safely to depths of about 300 feet. Inside her hull lived a crew of 85, 6 officers and 79 enlisted men, working, sleeping, and fighting in a space where privacy did not exist. They endured heat, darkness, and constant danger. Together, they turned the Albacore into one of the most feared predators in the Pacific, long before she herself vanished into silence. The Albacore was deadly not just because of her design, but because of how boldly she was used. Her commanders took risks, trusted their instincts, and pushed the submarine to its limits. Inside her steel hull, skill and nerve worked together. Her main weapons were her 10 torpedo tubes, 6 in front, 4 in the rear, allowing attacks while closing in or slipping away. In the right moment, a full spread could be launched in seconds, leaving even the largest enemy ships with nowhere to hide. Each strike was a tense mix of patience and speed. The crew listened for enemy propellers, calculated angles by hand, and waited in silence. Then, without warning, the torpedoes raced into the dark, often before anyone knew they were being hunted. The Albacore was also prepared to fight on the surface. Mounted on her deck was a 3-inch 50 caliber gun, used to finish damaged ships or engage smaller targets without wasting torpedoes. When enemy aircraft appeared, she relied on Oerlikon 20mm cannons, fast-firing weapons meant to keep attacking planes at bay long enough to dive and disappear. Together, these weapons turned the Albacore into a complete hunter. She could strike from deep water, fight on the surface, and vanish without warning. In the vast Pacific, every decision was life or death, and every shadow could hide a predator or a threat. One day, that predator faced a target unlike any other. A single strike would not only test her crew, but change the course of history forever. The sinking of the Taiho, a moment that rewrote history. The moment that defined Albacore's legacy came on June 19, 1944, during the Battle of the Philippine Sea. Many historians consider it the most important single submarine strike of the entire war. The target was Taiho, the newest and largest aircraft carrier in the Imperial Japanese Navy. Weighing over 31,000 tons and wrapped in heavy armor, Taiho was thought unsinkable, the future of Japan's naval air power. The Albacore was already deep in enemy waters, west of the Marianas, as Japanese forces moved towards Saipan. Earlier, Japanese destroyers had hunted her for hours, dropping depth charges that shook the submarine, flickered lights, and groaned hull plates. Yet the crew stayed calm, survived, and waited in silence. Then the moment came. Through the periscope, Taiho's massive shape appeared, a target submariners trained their entire careers to face. The Albacore slipped into position, calculated the angles, and launched 6 torpedoes in a single deadly spread. What followed was almost cinematic in its tragedy. Japanese pilot Sakio Komatsu saw a torpedo and deliberately crashed his plane into the water, sacrificing himself to save the carrier. One torpedo detonated early, giving a brief hope the ship might survive. But another struck. It ripped through the starboard side, ruptured fuel lines, and flooded the forward elevator shaft. At first, Taiho stayed afloat, yet unseen inside, gasoline vapors spread through enclosed compartments, waiting for a spark. The Albacore had done its part. The rest would unfold slowly, disastrously, and beyond the submarine's reach. What happened next would puzzle naval experts for decades. The Taiho did not sink right away. After the torpedo hit, the carrier stayed afloat and continued moving. To many on board, the damage seemed manageable. The real danger was hidden inside the ship. Aviation fuel had leaked from ruptured lines, filling sealed compartments with gasoline vapor. Instead of isolating the area, an inexperienced damage control officer made a fatal decision. He ordered the ship's ventilation system to run at full power, hoping to clear the fumes. It did the opposite. The fans pushed the highly explosive vapor through passageways, hangars, and crew spaces, spreading it across the entire carrier. Slowly, without anyone realizing it, Taiho became a floating bomb. For hours the ship sailed on, heavy with invisible danger. Then, in the early afternoon, a single spark, likely from an electrical source, ignited the fumes. The explosion was massive. Fire tore through the carrier's interior, ripping the ship apart from within. The pride of the Imperial Japanese Navy broke open and sank beneath the waves. Deep below the surface, the Albacore knew none of this. After firing her torpedoes, she had dived hard to escape enemy pursuit. The crew listened as depth charges exploded above them and assumed the attack had failed. There was no victory announcement, no celebration, only silence. It was not until months later, when intelligence reports confirmed the loss, that the truth emerged. The Albacore had destroyed Japan's newest aircraft carrier and its flagship of the battle. What began as a single torpedo strike ended as one of the most devastating naval losses of the war, caused as much by human error as by enemy fire. The sinking of Taiho was more than the loss of a single ship. It shattered the strength of Japanese naval aviation at a critical moment in the war. As the newest and most advanced carrier in the fleet, Taiho was meant to lead Japan's air power into the future. Instead, she vanished beneath the sea on her first major battle. Without her, the Japanese task force lost command, coordination, and confidence. Aircraft were left without proper direction, pilots were scattered, and the fragile balance of the battle collapsed. The result was a decisive American victory in the Battle of the Philippine Sea, an engagement later known as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot for the scale of Japanese losses. With the Taiho gone, the Japanese fleet was fractured and vulnerable, its power shattered in a single decisive blow. But for the USS Albacore, there was no time to rest. The Pacific remained vast, dark and deadly, and her next mission would take her into waters more treacherous than any she had faced before. Into the Mist, the final mission of November 1944. Success in the silent service came with a constant shadow, the knowledge that every patrol could be a sailor's last, a reality sailors grimly called the Eternal Patrol. For the USS Albacore, that shadow became final on her 11th and last mission. On October the 24th, 1944, she slipped quietly out of Pearl Harbor, steel and nerves ready for the dangers ahead. Lieutenant Commander Hugh Rayner Rimmer led the submarine with experience and confidence. The crew topped off fuel at Midway on October the 28th, then set course for the icy, treacherous waters northeast of Honshu and south of Hokkaido. The mission was dangerous. Mines littered the sea, and Rimmer had strict orders to stay in deep water, at least 100 fathoms, or 600 feet, to avoid certain death. Yet the Tsugaru Strait, a narrow channel critical for Japanese shipping, proved too tempting. Its strategic importance drew the Albacore closer to shore than was safe. She moved like a ghost beneath the waves, aware of the invisible dangers lurking below and around her. Then, on November 7, 1944, tragedy struck. A Japanese patrol boat witnessed a sudden explosion while a submarine was operating off the coast of Isan, Hokkaido. The blast was violent and total. The Japanese reported a massive debris field. Heavy oil, cork, bedding, provisions, and other fragments rose to the surface. It was the last sign of the Albacore, a ghostly trail marking her final moments. Weeks passed, and when she did not return to Midway by December 21, 1944, the Navy officially listed her as lost. All 85 men aboard had vanished into the deep, leaving only the mystery of what had truly happened in those icy waters. 78 years would pass before the Albacore finally whispered her secrets back to the surface. The physics of a submarine hitting a naval mine is terrifying. Japanese mines in the Second World War I were packed with hundreds of pounds of high explosives, hidden beneath the waves like deadly traps. They were not meant to just punch a hole, they were designed to create a massive gas bubble beneath a ship's hull. When that bubble collapsed, it sent a crushing shockwave upward, a water hammer that could snap a steel hull as easily as breaking a twig. The Albacore was operating deep in the cold, dark waters, around 300 feet beneath the surface. At that depth, the pressure of the ocean alone pressed against the hull at roughly 2.3 megapascals, or 345 pounds per square inch. Every inch of the submarine was already under enormous strain. If a mine detonated near her at that depth, the effect would be instantaneous and catastrophic. The blast would tear through the hull, and the pressure outside would cause the submarine to implode. The vessel would collapse inward in an instant, and every sailor inside would be gone before they even realized what had happened. No struggle, no warning, just the sudden, merciless power of physics in the deep. In a single, silent moment, a submarine that had hunted so many ships could itself be erased, leaving nothing but a few bubbles and debris to mark its passing. The resurrection, Dr. Tamaki Ura, and the search for SS-218. The hunt for the USS Albacore was given new life in the 21st century by Dr. Tamaki Ura, a world-renowned expert from the University of Tokyo. Unlike earlier searches that relied on luck and scattered reports, Dr. Ura had a vision: to use the latest robotic technology, autonomous underwater vehicles or AUVs, to solve one of the Pacific's longest-running mysteries. He wasn't just looking for a sunken submarine, he wanted to explore history itself, to see the final resting place of a legend through the eyes of machines that could survive where humans could not. Dr. Ura and his team began their work by diving deep into the archives. They scoured the Japan Center for Asian Historical Records, JACAR, studying every report of the November 7, 1944 explosion. They mapped patrol boat sightings, matched coordinates, and cross-checked ocean currents, tides, and historical charts. Every piece of information helped narrow the search. Finally, modern sonar surveys revealed an anomaly on the seafloor, something that didn't belong. It lay roughly 7 kilometers east of Hakodate, under layers of mud and darkness. The team knew they were close. They had a strong lead, but the ocean is vast, cold, and unforgiving. What awaited them on the seabed was still a question, but one that technology and determination might finally answer. The mission to find the Albacore faced enormous challenges from the very start. The Tsugaru Strait is a treacherous stretch of water, known for currents so strong that even surface ships struggle to stay in position. Beneath those waters, the wreck lay at a staggering depth of 237 meters, far beyond the reach of traditional divers. To explore it, the team relied on advanced technology, remotely operated vehicles and multi-beam sonar capable of mapping the dark seabed. In May 2022, a small ROV made the first dive. Its images were grainy but unmistakable, the bridge of a submarine emerging from the murk. For a moment, hope surged, but the mission nearly faltered. The ROV became trapped among the twisted steel of the bridge, unable to move or capture the full picture. Months of careful planning followed. On October 2, 2022, the larger ROV Cougar was deployed from the support vessel No. 8 Kaio Maru. Built for precision and endurance, it navigated the fierce currents and explored the wreck in detail. Its high-definition cameras revealed a submarine remarkably preserved, with eerie modifications that seemed to tell a story, frozen in time. The journey from the first sonar detection to final identification spanned months. Initial scans had shown a 50-meter-long shape on the seabed. Early dives confirmed the bridge, hinting at the presence of a legendary vessel. Cougar's footage brought clarity and detail, capturing a vessel unlike any other discovered in decades. Finally, in February 2023, the Naval History and Heritage Command confirmed what everyone had hoped. The wreck was indeed the USS Albacore. After 78 years, the giant killer had returned from the deep not as a myth, but as steel, silence, and a haunting testament to its deadly past. This discovery marked more than just the location of a lost submarine. It opened a new way of looking at history. Experts call it a third-order insight in modern archaeology, the understanding that the past can now be preserved digitally, without ever raising a single piece of rusted metal from the sea. Using high-definition footage from ROVs like Cougar, researchers could explore the Albacore in astonishing detail. Every deck, every torpedo tube, every modification could be studied as if they were standing on the submarine themselves, without putting human divers at risk or disturbing the site. It was a new kind of time travel. The wreck remained frozen in its watery grave, but through technology, its story could be told, analyzed, and shared with the world. History could live again, not in fragments pulled from the deep, but in a digital record that preserved the mystery, the danger, and the beauty of a vessel that had vanished for 78 years. The Albacore had returned, not just physically, but virtually, deciphering the steel, the forensic evidence of the wreck. When the footage from the RO5 Cougar reached the Naval History and Heritage Command's Underwater Archaeology branch in Washington, D.C., the team knew they faced a monumental task. They had to prove, beyond doubt, that this wreck was the USS Albacore. In marine archaeology, this is never easy. Ships change over time, crews make modifications, upgrades are added, and by the end of a vessel's service, it often looks very different from the blueprints. Identification often depends on spotting these unique changes, like fingerprints frozen in steel. As the archaeologists studied the images, they began to recognize the subtle marks of the Albacore's life. The bridge and superstructure matched records of the submarine just before her final patrol in 1944. The SJ radar dish and its tall mast stood exactly where historical documents had said they would, evidence of a late-war upgrade unique to Gato-class submarines. Along the top of the superstructure, a row of vent holes could be seen, another rare feature added to improve air circulation and drainage during rapid dives. Even the Fairwater, the tower that rises from the hull, bore unmistakable signs of a weight reduction modification. The steel plates along its upper edge had been removed, exactly as mid-1944 photographs of the Albacore showed. It was in these small, precise details that the wreck revealed its identity. Each feature was like a signature, written in metal and preserved for nearly 8 decades beneath some of the most turbulent waters on Earth. When the archaeologists finally confirmed the identification on February 16, 2023, they were left in awe. This was not just a sunken vessel, it was a living page from history, perfectly preserved, whispering the story of the submarine and the crew who had once sailed her through life and death hunts across the Pacific. For the historians, it was a moment of triumph and wonder. The Albacore had returned, recognizable, undeniable, and silent, yet speaking volumes. Echoes of the giant killer, the Albacore's lasting legacy. While the discovery of the Albacore is a technological marvel, it is the human story that hits hardest. The wreck is a war grave, the final resting place of 85 sailors who gave their lives in the Pacific. Lieutenant Commander Hugh Rayner Rimmer, the captain who guided her into the Tsugaru Strait. John Joseph Carano, just 18, leaving behind a twin sister. William Henry Gibson, whose 100th birthday came the year the submarine was finally found. For their families, the discovery brought long-awaited closure. Lisa Hume Lutman, great-grandniece of 19-year-old Alan Hudgens, described her heart jumping when she heard the news. The site is now protected under US law, a sacred place that must not be disturbed. On land, visitors to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, see the USS Albacore museum ship, but that vessel, AGSS 569, is an experimental submarine commissioned in 1953. Named to honor the original giant killer, it tested the revolutionary teardrop hull, trading surface speed for unmatched underwater performance. This design shaped every modern US submarine, including the nuclear-powered USS Nautilus. The legacy of the Albacore lives on in 2 forms. SS-218 proved the deadly skill of wartime submariners, while AGSS 569 pointed the way to the future, capable of speeds and maneuvers the Second World War boats could only dream of. Could there still be more lost submarines and warships waiting to be uncovered? If the ocean can keep secrets for decades, what other mysteries are still waiting beneath the waves? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.